I know the keynote was running a little later. And then we have Windows 95, which really brought back the taskbar. And now we didn't have a rudimentary taskbar. We had a taskbar. And the key parts of the taskbar, again, were a dedicated amount of real estate. We had a start menu. We had a notification area. This is the taskbar you all remember, and that's still with us to this day. We also introduced the start menu, which kind of replaced some of these windows that let you launch. We had caption controls. You look at the bottom, rather the top right portion of these windows, you see the famous or now ubiquitous minimize, restore, and close buttons, really standardized in this version of Windows. And I cheated a little bit. I apologize. Technically, Windows 95 came out in 1995. But the screenshot I have here is Windows 95 with IE4 with desktop extensions. And this came out in 1997. The reason I bring this up, not to be super pedantic for you guys, but the reason I bring this up is it introduced something very, 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 very critical to the taskbar. If you notice those little icons next to the start menu, that's Quick Launch. And Quick Launch came in as a deskpan, and what it allowed customers to finally do is give them top-level access to launch. So based on Windows 95, 97, been with us to this point. It also gave us ideas of deskpans, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, and again, you guys are all probably super enthusiasts, and you know everything there is to know about Windows. I don't know how many people may know this, but you can actually right-click on Quick Launch, and you'll get large icons. So this is not Photoshopped. In fact, if you have your machine right here running XP or Vista, you can unlock your taskbar, right-click on Quick Launch, and do large icons. Been with us since 1997, kind of a throwback to Windows 1.0. But again, it was nice that they made it, that we were able to make icons large and nice click targets, but it kind of cramped the task band. This is where the windows are to switch. And so it's an exciting feature, but it's off by default until now. Moving along, we have Windows XP. And Windows XP introduced a very famous feature called taskbar grouping. Taskbar grouping, I'm sure you all know it. Most of you are okay with it. Some of you love it. And there are a few people who are not big fans, and we'll talk about that as well. Taskbar grouping pretty much allows the taskbar to be more space conscious. And so when you have lots of windows open for a single application, it collapses. And so you can notice, if you notice IE here, IE is actually grouped, and there are 9 windows of IE running. And then you have a WordPad to the right of it. So this was an important feature that allowed more room on the taskbar. Now, oddly enough, as much as Quick Launch is so great, so awesome, so great for top-level access, it was turned off by default in Windows XP. And we quickly rectified that. We know we don't mess with users' ability to launch from the top level. The Start menu introduced some more interesting algorithm approaches to launching. This was the Start menu MFU. So when you use an application frequently, it'll appear here, again, reducing the amount of clicks. It's very important that we want to reduce the amount of clicks. And then we introduced the idea of balloon tips. And love them or hate them, they are valuable. Sometimes they're a little distracting. And XP really kind of made this more mainstream. And then we come to Vista. Vista introduced several UI concepts, but again, I'm focusing really on desktop and window switching and window management. There are a few things I'd like to call out here. The Start menu introduced this notion of search. And search was great because, especially for you enthusiasts, you can quickly type what you want and get to exactly where you want to go. All programs now is a list that lets you navigate it a little easier. And XP, we found people had cascading menus and their mouse would always fall off the menu. From a taskbar perspective, we reintroduced Quick Launch. And when you move your mouse over the task band, the center part of the taskbar, you got little thumbnails. So we like that. A lot of customers like the pretty thumbnails. And then we introduced gadgets, which you see on the desktop there. And gadgets are great for periphery awareness. So just a quick summary of the world of Windows. Now, since I have XP, or rather Vista, up here already, I thought it'd be interesting to walk you through some of the areas of improvements we identified. And you guys have been staring at this. Let me ask a quick question of the audience. There's a post-it note here that says, how many icons of Outlook do you see? Anyone know the answer, if you were able to count? Anyone? No? 6. 6 is the right answer. If I had something to give you, I would, but I don't. How about an M3 build of Win 7 when you're done? Yes, the answer is 6. And let me walk through what that really means to you, the user, and you, the developer. So on the desktop, you have a bunch of icons here, not uncommon, and you have an Outlook here. Then you have the Start menu. Oh, I should mention, the desktop is it's a very popular launch surface because you have these nice big icons. The problem is the desktop gets covered very quickly, and so it's usually at least 1 to 2 clicks to get to these items. And then, of course, it gets very crowded. Then you have the Start menu. Start menu, again, has the MFU, and you can pin things at the top of the Start menu. You, of course, have your frequent items, and then you can click on All Programs to go to your Start items. You can use Search to go to your Start items, and you can go to the special folders. So the Start menu alone has about 5 different launch surfaces in itself. Then you have Quick Launch, and there's yet another Outlook icon if you're playing Where's Outlook. And Quick Launch is really interesting. If you notice what's going on here, I've Outlook pinned here. And if I click Outlook, I'm sure we have many Outlook users here. If I click Outlook right now, something interesting happens. Outlook does not launch. You guys probably may have noticed this. If I click Outlook, it'll actually switch to Outlook because you notice Outlook's already running on the taskbar. And the fact of the matter is, almost all single instance applications do this automatically today. Outlook, for example, any IM client you have, a music client like Media Player or Instant Messenger, another IM client, these applications can only use one instance, so when you try to relaunch them, they take the shortcut and say, oh, you mean switch. So we almost had this bit of confusion of launching and switching on the same surface of the taskbar. I also joke about Quick Launch being neither a great launcher or really a quick launcher because I cheated here and expanded Quick Launch. There are only 4 icons by default. And we find is it's not the easiest items to target. And usually you have to open up this little chevron piece here, which kind of looks like a mini Start menu next to the big Start menu. So again, a lot of areas for improvement there. Then we go on to the regular part of the taskbar here. Again, as you know, you guys are all experts at this. This represents the windows themselves that are running on your desktop. And again, you'll see I here glommed, or glom is kind of an internal name we use. Really, it's kind of, we call it window grouping. And window grouping, as I mentioned before, allows the taskbar to save space. But it's worth noting that there are 3 issues we see with window grouping. One is, it may not be predictable, right? You're working in Outlook here and suddenly IE is like, zoink, I'm going to shrink. Doesn't lead to failure. When you go back to IE, you probably know where it is, but there's a little, you got to kind of refocus. Another issue is when you do click on this thing, and you do have to click, there's a rather flat list of items that come up, and it's kind of weird. The taskbar for left to right languages fills from left to right, and suddenly this list goes from bottom to top. So again, not failure, but just you don't feel great about it. And finally, there is that extra click. So we kind of like grouping, but we want to make it better. And then on the bottom corner here, we have what we call desktop toolbars, or from a developer standpoint, you may call them desk bands. This is the Media Player desk band. Now, out of curiosity, how many people use this on their machines or a similar type of desk band? Oh, we have good size. Again, you guys are enthusiasts because our data shows only 3% of sessions worldwide see this UI. 3%. And we find that's because A, good luck finding it, and B, it takes valuable space on the taskbar. So we like the concept of controlling background music. We like the idea of one-click access, but we don't like the baggage that it comes with. Notification area, I don't have to spend a lot of time on this. Julie talked a lot about the notification area. It's important. It needs to be tamed. And then we have the gadgets on the desktop here. Really, really valuable concepts. Actually premiered at PDC 2003, if you guys were here for that. One of the problems we have is they're usually occluded by Windows. And so again, we want to make that a better experience. So let's talk about the future. Let's talk about looking at these inputs, how did we determine the goals and the areas of improvement? So just to quickly summarize that previous slide, we think there are too many launch surfaces. Now, this doesn't mean we're going to remove launch surfaces. If you still want to save to the desktop, you should be able to. But we just want to kind of guide you to the primary and the more well-lit launch surfaces, if you will, the better decoration. We think switching windows may be error-prone. How often have you tried to switch to a window and accidentally switched to the wrong one? Again, it's not the end of the world, but it'd be nicer if you didn't have to do that. Lots of redundancy. Again, look, with Quick Launch, when you click an item, sometimes it switches, sometimes it launches. Do you really need 6 icons of Outlook on your desktop? I don't think you do. Generally, there's a lot of noise, especially in the notification area. And finally, arranging windows requires some acrobatics. So, grabbing the window at the right point and getting them just in the right place, and then closing them, and it may not remember that state.